About It. I am your co-host, Mr. William Burties, and today we have a great show because we're going to talk about your thoughts, your mind, and how you can essentially get to where you want to in life. But before we get into today's topic today, we're going to introduce our co-host, Mr. Clinton James.
Yes, this is Clinton James. Hey, we've been going for a minute actually, so we're glad to be back. I always tell everybody it's Taco Tuesday, but we're taking it over. Let's talk about it Tuesday. And I always tell everybody where you can find me in the corner of working on myself, lean and inspiring others drive. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. So today we're going to talk about the power of manifestation according to the Bible. The power of manifestation according to the Bible.
And that's a great topic, man. That's a topic that definitely is relevant today.
And the reason we bring this up because our thoughts and our mind control pretty much everything that goes in our life.
Absolutely.
There's certain things that are in our life that we can't control, but there's a majority portion of our life that we can control. And I just want to go over some biblical principles, not just go off of some worldly view, but some biblical principles on how you can utilize the power of manifestation to get to where you want to in life. Okay? That sounds good?
Right.
All right. So we're going to get into it today. So the first verse I'm going to get into today is Mark chapter 11, verse 24. And this is where manifestation begins with belief. It says, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Let me repeat that. Mark chapter 11, verse 24 says, "Therefore I tell you," this is Jesus talking,
Right.
"whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." So basically, it's belief before blessings. This is how faith activates results.
Right.
So my question is to those listeners, do I truly believe it's already mine when I pray, or am I just hoping it works out? What you think?
Well, that's the thing. It's as I say, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Right. And the thing about it is that one thing I've learned about manifestation when it comes to relating it to biblical values and biblical knowledge is that you have with manifestation it goes hand in hand in not only self-awareness but also facing oneself, right? Because in order for you to really be able to actually seek things that are greater than what you see right now, you have to have that belief in the truth. You have to have that integrity that you have to be honest with yourself then. Very honest.
Well, I think that's the thing.
Because a lot of people will use manifestation for things that they're not capable in the moment of getting, right?
Well, I think we base it on the expectation of when you're going to get it.
Right.
I think the important thing about this particular scripture is, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours." Is that prayer is, to me, is about action.
Right, exactly.
It's about,
absolutely action.
Am I moving in a way that my prayer is already answered?
Right.
So if your belief is to start a business or your belief is to buy a house or whatever it may be, then you have to move in that action.
Right.
So, for example, I could talk about my own personal situation. It's about almost 20 years ago. I wrote down on a notebook, and this is the time I was living at home with my parents, no car, no job. And I wrote down in my book that my goal is to buy a house in 3 years.
Nice.
Okay? Wrote it down. And I would read that almost every day. So I remember we would go out and we would go look at houses via open houses. And we would go to different areas in San Diego where we thought we wanted to live. I was moving in a way as if the prayer was already answered.
Okay.
I didn't know how I
Right.
was going to make this work.
Right.
Well, I did not buy a home within 3 years
Okay.
of that goal.
Right.
I bought it within 2.
Nice. Nice.
I bought it within 2 years.
Right.
So I moved like it was going to happen, and I didn't have the resources then when I wrote it down.
Right.
So I think sometimes we focus too much on timing, meaning
Right.
God didn't answer my prayers if it didn't
Right.
happen next week or next
Right.
month or
Right.
within a year.
Right.
You just have to move in a way that prayer is already answered.
Right. And I mean, since you say you're talking about the mind, so I mean, manifestation starts in the mind, and that's where the key of almost every big creation, any creation that you can think that man has created on earth, is started up in our mind. So it shows
Right.
how powerful our mind is,
Right.
right? And one of the things we don't really understand is that there's that mind. The mind actually is something that that pushes creates our actions, right? So it controls our actions basically. So when you whatever you focus on, that's where the energy goes. So there's a saying that where focus goes, energy flows,
Right.
And one of the things that Cynthia talks about that in terms of home ownership and stuff, I always tell my clients right now, especially when you're looking at the prices in San Diego and Southern California, buying a home is almost crazy today because you're paying over $500,000 for an asset, right? And that's for most people, that's out of reach, the average person, right? But there are ways in which people are doing it. And I was telling them, if you want to buy a home, you have to actually start thinking about what is that home going to look like.
Right.
You really have to start right there because you got to plant those seeds in your mind. Because a lot of us argue ourselves out of our blessings, right?
We argue ourselves out of blessings?
Yeah, we argue ourselves out. And I will say this, one of the things I'll tell all my clients, you see, as long as you fight for your limitations, you're going to get them, right? So why not just turn that energy around and fight for your dreams and goals,
Look at,
right?
yes.
So I mean, so a lot of us actually argue and be like, oh, well, can't do it, can't. No, I don't see it happen. So I mean, that's what you're manifesting out there.
Okay, so
Right.
that leads me to scripture number 2.
Right.
Your words create your world.
Exactly.
So death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. That's Proverbs 18:21. And that just so happens comes from one of the wisest men ever to live,
Right.
King Solomon.
King Saul, yes.
So again, Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue,
Right.
and those who love it will eat its fruit. So speak it until you see it.
Right.
So that poses the question: what have I been consistently speaking, and is it building or breaking my future?
Right, and that's the power of words, right? So speak it into existence, right? As people always say, it's like, and King Solomon was one of those. I mean, I always read Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. One of those. He's one of those. When you really want wisdom and you really want wise guidance in the Bible, I always tell people go to Proverbs, go to read Ecclesiastes.
Interesting with Proverbs, there's 31.
Right.
So you could read a chapter a day.
Right.
And you can complete it in a month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly in a month.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to start reading the Bible, or if you just want to read something in the Bible that actually gives you some understanding of how to make decisions, I think yes, definitely probably easy class. Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes.
Well, what's wrong? La. Ecclesiastes is one of those chapters that you should read. Now, one of the things that I would say is this: is that speaking it into existence, and is something where I think we have to take charge of our minds, and therefore responsible for we are in charge of our minds, and that's one thing we have to realize. Right. What we do is our responsibility. We have to take accountability for that. So that means we're responsible for the results and the way we think.
So I heard the great Maya Angelou say this, that she truly believes in the power of words. She talks about how when she was a kid,
right,
she was assaulted by someone close to her family, and she had told some of the people in her family, and the man that assaulted her ended up dead. And she felt real bad about it to the point where she said she stopped talking. She just stopped talking for many years because she believed her words killed him. So she would still read, she would still go to school, but she just would not talk. She didn't say anything.
Right.
And, obviously later on she started talking because, the great books and poems, and she became a professor and, a great thought leader. And she said one day in an interview, she says that she believes words can't go void. So what you say attaches to something. She believes it attaches to the walls, the chairs,
Right.
The clothes. Like what you say
Right.
just can't manifest somewhere. It has to manifest this somewhere.
Right.
So what you say is extremely important. And, that's why God gave us 2 ears and one mouth.
Right. Right. Gotta listen
because
more
we
than
got
we
to
talk.
listen to twice as much as
Right.
we speak.
And words carry some power, right? So a lot of people tend to forget that words are very, very powerful, right? That's why now when we read the Bible, we get inspired, right?
Right,
When we read
right.
books, we get inspired. So what you say definitely carries some weight, especially what you say to yourself. Not what you say, not what you
Right.
say out there, but what you say to yourself a lot.
And that self-talk is super
Right.
important. There's a book out there called Self-Talk by an author named Lou Tice.
Right.
And he was talking about the importance of, no enemy without can harm you like the enemy within.
Right.
So what are you saying to yourself all the time?
Right.
And sometimes you don't have to verbalize it. You're thinking it.
Right.
And so I just think it's, like you said, man, this is extremely important that, we choose our words wisely, especially if you want to purchase something like a house,
Right.
which is your business.
Right.
And if you keep on saying, I can't do it, it costs too much,
Right.
interest rates are too high,
Right.
San Diego, all that type of stuff, then your wish is
Right.
my
You're speaking-
command.
you're
You're speaking into existence.
Yeah, it's so much so important, and as I said, as long as you fight for your limitations, you are going to get them.
Right.
So I always say, just switch it around. Start fighting for your goals and your dreams.
Right.
So it's going to be a battle, but you know what? The more people in that battle, and more people are fighting on your side, it's better off you're going to be. Right.
There you go.
You're going to get more success.
So the other thing is I want to hit on when it comes to this is I can't even talk now. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." So that brings up is faith is the substance of what you don't see.
Right.
So faith over feelings, trusting what you can't yet
Right.
touch.
Right.
So you ask yourself, am I walking by faith or am I being driven by what I see and feel? So here's an example. I was thinking about this today. When we go to the restaurant and we look at the menu
Right.
and we put an order in, we have enough faith and trust that whatever we ordered is going to come out to us
Right.
and feed us.
Right.
Even if this is the first time you ever been to that restaurant. So what say it that we have a God out there who wants to see us do better than any server
Right.
if we are not very specific on what we want to order?
Right.
Even if we haven't physically seen it yet, we have
Right.
to have a vision of seeing it.
Right.
So, again, am I walking by faith or am I being driven by what I see and feel?
Right. And something I always put in perspective is when people say that there's no God, right? And one of the things is that, all right, so if you believe that there's no God, that means everything that we see in this earth, outside of the earth, outside of the universe, which every time we actually investigate more and more, we discover it. Like they say, like every year, I think it's 15,000 species of plants that are discovered, new plants are discovered. So So one of the things is that, and so
Yeah, you're saying just because you don't see it doesn't mean it
right,
doesn't
just
exist.
because you don't see it doesn't mean it exists, but we
Right.
see the evidence of something bigger than us.
Right.
Because we can't create it. We're still discovering things that
Right.
we think we are the smartest people in the world. You can put them in one room and they're still not going to discover everything out there.
Right.
When we go outside the planet, because when we go outside the Earth, right, we only seeing things in the Earth, and we still haven't discovered everything yet.
Right.
Right. So we can't say that all that was by chance. You know, there's no way. You know, it's. I mean, there's no way that the Earth spins on an axis at a certain evolution around the sun, right? And it's actually gravity is actually
and
you know?
and just so perfectly
right,
that it was off just a little bit,
right.
we all be gone.
We're gone, right?
Yeah.
And then it'll change the ecosystem,
Right.
And then it controls the seasons, the 4 seasons
Right.
that we have, and then so that's what I'm saying. It's like, and that's what I'm trying to say. It's like faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So I mean, when you really put that in perspective, you have to understand that number one is that we as human beings are an example of faith. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we think we have it all under control, right? But it's really not, right? So every day that we get an opportunity, because the sun is going to come up no matter what,
Right.
right? And that's faith too, because we don't know if it's not, right? We can't forecast that,
Right.
right? We think we can, but we really can't.
Right.
But at the same time too, we have to understand that our existence on this earth
Right.
is a form of faith, because we have evidence of life,
Right.
but the unknown is still there. It's still unknown because we don't know what's outside of this earth, right? And the last but not least, I'll say is the quote is, to be successful, you cannot make decisions based upon how you feel. Your results are based upon what you do. So I would say, I mean, we tend to let our feelings, it's like 80-20. We tend to let our feelings control how we function in life or who we are,
Right.
right? But I believe it's life is more about, you gotta, if you have faith, you have to do, right? You
Right.
have to be able to actually, you can change your life just by doing
And,
one.
and this is, and this may be a little controversial. I don't know. This may ruffle some feathers, but my belief is if you're in the church and you're a believer, you got to move like you're a believer.
Right, right.
And a lot of times I see people within the church who say they're a believer but don't move like they're a believer.
Right,
However, you still got to put action into it.
right,
I don't think you just personally. I don't think you just sit there
right,
and like, okay, I pray for it. I'm gonna sit there, and nothing happens.
right,
I do believe prayer works. I do believe there's certain things that no matter what action we put in, that is still dependent on the movement of God.
right,
However, I'm gonna say however, with that, we still have to have belief that even if we don't see it, it still can happen.
right, exactly.
There's a lot of things that we have in our life that we didn't know how it was going to turn out. We just had faith that it would work out that way.
Right.
And it did. And sometimes what we have in our mind of how it's going to work doesn't work out in the way
Right.
we think it's going to work. Sometimes it comes out better.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and so it's having faith that the Bible talks about it, that if you ask a parent, if a kid asks a parent for something,
Right.
something specific, like would the parent go out and get something different, or would they go out and get what that kid wanted?
Most likely.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they love that kid.
Right.
So discussion is even if we haven't seen it, that we have to have faith that we have a God out there
Right.
who loves us unconditionally,
Right.
that will provide all of our needs,
Right.
especially if we pray for it.
Exactly.
So next is vision is a manifestation strategy. So we're gonna talk about. I'll hit myself. We're gonna talk about Habakkuk, chapter 2, verses 2-3, where it says, "Write the vision and make it plain.
Right.
For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Write the vision and make it
Right.
plain. For the vision is yet for an appointed time."
Exactly.
So write it down, watch it work. So, audience, Have you taken the time to clearly define and write down the vision I believe God gave me?
That's a question. I mean, especially for people who go into business. Something that I always have told people is that going into business. I mean, you have to have a plan in place, right? I mean, and it's called a business plan, right? It could be as small as just 2 pages. It could be as long as like a whole like pro forma, right? But that plan is what's going to tell you whether it's going to work or if it's not. That's why journaling is so important. Like people think it's just, it's going to be. They ask me to put my plan on paper. No, it's kind of like journaling is important because it implants it in your mind.
Right.
Right. Because
Right.
not only are you writing it and putting it to action, but you also actually reading it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And your mind is also creating it at the same time. Right. I always tell everybody this: if you can put your business plan, if you have an idea, big idea, and you can put that on paper, and you have a business plan, you can put it on paper, or get somebody to help you sit down and put it on paper. You would see whether it's going to work, right? And then you can see what you have to tweak, right? In order for it to work. Because when you go to the bank and unless you have the money to do it on your own, right? And that means you're gambling right now. You're taking a big chance because you have the money and you're just like, I'm just going to put this idea and throw money at it, right? You don't know if it's going to make a profit or it's not based upon, you're just speculating, hey, I'm taking a gamble, right? Sometimes it works out like that. But the probability of things happening, of not working out, is higher. So you're taking a risk. Now, the bigger the risk in business is, the bigger the reward, right? But at the same time, you want to mitigate that risk. And that's why it's important for you to have it written down. Like every single business that's on the stock market has every year to put out a plan. Every year to put out a business forecast, and they have to meet those numbers. That's why they find in the stock market it goes up and down based upon meeting those metrics. So when the KPIs come out, you'll see the key performance indexes come out where, say, McDonald's didn't meet its 4-quarter goals, the stock goes down, right? Because it's a signal that something is happening in the economy, right? And it does make a big shift in how money happens, interest rate, it affects everything, right? Because it's foretelling. Maybe something is on the horizon. So, I mean, if it's so important for those businesses, it's important for even if you have a small business, right? So I would say that's your vision, right? It's going to help you now understand even like implying in your mind, because now you'll know the insides of your business. So nobody can come and tell you or take your idea, right? Because you already implied it, you wrote it down. You know the numbers. You know how a 5-year forecast, 2-year forecast. You know how much money you want to make. You also know what goals you have to meet in sales, right? And you're not just being like, oh yeah, well I'm making money, it's coming in,
right?
Because if you're not, because what happens with a lot of businesses that start, and I'm using business as a way of saying it because it's written, we have to write it down,
right?
But what happens with a lot of businesses in the beginning is that when they start, they see the sales and the revenue coming in, but they're not accounting for the fixed and the variable expenses, which is the overhead, which is also the accounts receivable and the accounts payables. They're not accounting for those things. So they try to figure, it's like, this is business people, is like, we like building the plane as we're trying to land. Right? So, but a lot of times, it is a risk you're taking. But I always say, write it down. So, I mean, the quote for that is that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, right?
Say it one more time.
You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Okay.
So that's why writing it down is like putting a system in place. Right? You're putting checks and balances in place when you write it down. So, I mean, if you do that with everything, even journaling and stuff like that, you realize that you're putting checks and balances in your mind of what's real and what's not.
Right.
So.
No, I mean, you hit on some really important things when it comes to actually writing it down. Because a lot of times you have it in your head,
right? And
we're humans, we forget or we can't recall,
right?
And when you write it down, it's like, oh yeah, just like I talked about writing down the house thing, and there's other things I wrote down on there too that still came to fruition within or without that time frame. And I think a lot of times people focus too much on the how part.
Right.
Like, how's this going to work?
Right.
Instead of focusing on, if I write it down, I can adjust it, how it goes.
Exactly.
So if something's not working out, or something needs to be more clear, or something needs to be another objective, or whatever, or a different goal, a different strategy,
Right.
you still got to write it down.
Right.
You have to know where you was at, so you're not making the same mistakes,
Exactly.
and where you're going, so you can make better decisions.
Well, you're not going in circles, right?
Yes. So write it down. I got some out here that's going to hurt some minds too. Is manifestation requires forgiveness.
Yes.
So
Yes, that's a good one.
Mark chapter 11 verse 25 says, "And when you stand praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them."
Right.
Woo!
That's a hard one.
That's a hard one.
That's a tough one, right?
You know, one of the best statements I heard about forgiveness, I heard T.D. Jakes say it, and I've heard other thought leaders say this, is unforgiveness is like drinking poison yourself and expecting the other person you have issues with to be sick.
Ooh, true.
So unforgiveness
that's true. I heard
is
that.
drinking poison yourself and expecting someone else to get sick. It hurts you.
Right.
It hurts you.
Right.
And listen, I understand that someone crossed you,
Right.
did you wrong,
Right.
didn't meet your expectations,
Right.
intentionally tried to hurt you.
Right.
And being human, I understand the frustration and the anger about that.
Right.
But the forgiveness is not for them.
Exactly. It's for you.
It's for you.
It's for you.
So question is let it go so you can grow. Now, that's not the question, it's a statement. Let it go so you can grow.
Right.
If there was someone I need to forgive, so my prayers and progress, is there someone that I need to forgive so my prayers and progress aren't blocked? Woo!
Right. I mean, that's blocking your blessings, right? As they call it.
Yeah.
No, what? So, something that's so important, right? So, if you want things to actually grow in your life, you have to loosen the soil, right? A lot of times the soil's so tight that you haven't watered it, you haven't even put any type of manure or anything like that in it, or any type of anything for it to grow, but you want it to grow, bear fruit or bear plants or anything. But so that's what forgiveness is basically about. It's like you have to actually loosen that soil. You have to actually put that, and you're the soil basically, right? So things to grow from you and things to actually manifest from you, you have to have a clarity, right, about it. You can't hold on to negative things because it's kind of like negative positive. You can't hold on. And forgiveness is like, one of the things that kind of helped me understand it's kind of like when I went through that self-awareness or self-development process of NLP. And one of the things that they always put in
What's NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
So, but it shows you, a lot, and it's more scientific than holistic, right? So what they show you, though, is that it helps you kind of become more self-aware of how things actually work in life, because of your mind, right? Because the mind is such a powerful thing. Now, one of the things that they showed you, one of the presuppositions of which they call it from NLP is that people are not their behaviors, right? How people behave, that's not who they are. And once you come to understand that, you understand that you can't always look at the behavior and say that's that person, right? Because that behavior is coming from somewhere else,
Right.
Because we're all human, right? And that's the hard part, because that forces us now to understand the behavior that somebody manifests. It has nothing to do with you. Like it's them.
It's them.
It's
right?
them, right?
Yeah.
But they affect us. They make it. We make it affect us, right? Right.
There's a book called The Four Agreements, and one of the four agreements is don't take it personal.
Yeah, you can't. You really can't. And just because someone failed doesn't mean that they are a failure, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It also helps you understand not only you got to look at that people and our behaviors, but failure. Failure doesn't mean it's just an opportunity. I would say failure is just you have to switch around how you see failure.
Right.
As I said, if you fail doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? Because number one, it's just a way of actually showing you, okay, well, what can you do? How can
Well,
you do it better?
I mean, if you follow sports, anytime you miss a shot or you don't hit the ball, you strike out,
Right.
you're not considered a failure for that moment.
Right. Doesn't mean that you have to stop.
Right.
Does not mean you have
Yeah.
to stop. Yeah.
Do we have to do a commercial break today? For
No.
commercial. Okay, so but continue on the forgiveness part. It's like when you hold on to unforgiveness, it's like holding on to this phone.
Right.
And let's say this phone is 10 years old.
Right.
And you need a new phone.
Right.
But you gotta hold on to it.
Right.
You're holding on so tight that you can't receive a new phone.
Right.
You can't receive the new blessing. And that's the power of forgiveness.
Right.
Is that when you're holding on to things, you can't open your hands to receive things that are
Right.
there for you. And because we're not God, we can't predict what the future is going to be
Right.
like. Now, however, I will say, going back to that, if someone has done you wrong,
Right.
I'm not saying don't use your brain
Right.
and get back into the same trap.
Right.
Use your
Yeah,
brain. Be intelligent.
Right. Exactly.
Just don't
Exactly.
sit there and have it have control over you.
Right. Learn from the
Yes.
mistake. Learn from the mistake. And it's too. The other thing is kind of like somebody put it to me like this. Some people take hold on to forgiveness like an emotional debt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sorry, unforgiveness like an emotional debt because they always go back or revert back, and a lot of the behaviors come from that unforgiveness, or they always remember that specific instance
Right.
when they were hurt, right? And they have the trauma. Well, it's kind of like it leads to trauma. I wouldn't say that's always trauma, but it leads to trauma, right? Because
Right.
you see things manifesting in their lives because of trauma. Now, somebody put it to me like this, and I remember they say you went to the bank one time. One day you went to the bank, took out $40,000, right? And you had somebody ran by and grabbed $100 from the stack of $40,000. The only way you can chase that person is by leaving the $39,900 behind because it's pretty heavy, and chasing that person with a $100 bill to try to catch up to them, right? So you just left, right, all that money behind, right?
Because you're worried about.
To worry about that $100, and that's what life is. We do with life too,
Mhm.
right? We make one small second or hour or month or week in our life determine how we live the rest of our life.
Yes.
Right.
And you can't live in the past.
Yeah.
Because when you live in the past, you talk about double-minded.
Right.
How can you live in the past and still be in the now?
Right. Exactly.
So if you're holding on to unforgiveness, if you're holding on to not forgiving someone for doing something towards you, and that could be a family member, that could be a friend.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes people do something to somebody and don't even know. They out there living their life. They ain't
Right.
even thinking about you.
Right.
And you so angry that you have someone that has control over you that ain't even thinking
Right.
about you.
Right.
But let's look at the other way. What if someone intentionally does something to you
Right.
and is doing it to control you?
Right.
You're giving them that power to still control you.
Right.
So
That's true. That's
so
true.
we have to live consciously
Right.
on the decisions we make
Right.
and forgive them, but don't be. Well, at the same time,
Right.
be prudent and don't let someone hurt you again.
Right. Always understand this. Forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you.
It's about you.
And once you understand it's about you, you'll understand that even if you forgive somebody, you don't have to go back in that situation or be that friend or go after that relationship again.
Right.
Right? Forgiving them doesn't mean you have to go back to it, right? Or become like that. Because a lot of people think, oh, I forgive them, and we see it on TV. It's like, at the end of the movie, they come together and they're
Right.
friends and all this stuff, and they walk off in the sunset, right?
Right.
No, what we're saying is that, and what I've come to learn is that forgiveness is, yeah, I forgive you for that, but at the same time too, this is more for me, right? And I mean, I don't want to. That relationship that we had, it can never go back to the same.
Right.
But at the same time too, I'm forgiving you because of me. So yeah, I mean, I see you as a normal person. I
Right.
love you as somebody, but I might be able to. I would rather love you from a distance.
Yeah.
Because
love
that
you,
person might not change. You know, like that
Right.
person might be the same person.
Well, you cannot let someone take
Right.
advantage of you just because you call yourself meek and humble and
Right.
holy.
Right.
That's just being unintelligent.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't let people take advantage of you because you call yourself a Christian.
Absolutely.
However, we still don't let them have power over you. But I want to make sure I get through these other ones because that could be a whole show right there. Number 6 is your desires must align with God's will. So James chapter 4 verse 3 says, "You ask and you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives." So purpose over personal gain.
Right.
So ask yourself, are my goals aligned with God's purpose or just my own ambition? And I think we kind of have to be a little, how can I say? This one takes some finessing in a certain way, meaning that I believe God gives us ideas, vision, imagination on things we have to act on. And I believe what this particular verse is saying is that adjusting those things towards something else because we have the wrong motives. And it might be getting back at someone.
Right.
It may be to harm someone. It may be to harm yourself.
Right.
You know, it could be something destructive.
Right.
So I think we have to be honest about what you said earlier about what we truly want.
Right.
And making sure that with what we truly want, God gave us to us anyway.
Right.
When we deviate from that towards something that's not in our purpose,
Right.
then that's when you have the wrong motives.
Right.
So what's an example? What's a good example of someone going towards the wrong? Okay, I got one. Let's say you have a purpose in life to be married.
Right.
And right, like that's something that you want, is a desire you have, and I believe if a desire is there, God puts it in there for you.
Right.
However, you change the purpose of it for not building relationship, but you do it for just to get married for the money.
Yeah.
And you say, you know what, I'm gonna marry this person for money.
Right.
And I'm gonna get as much as I can, stay with them for however many years.
Right.
Divorce them,
Right.
and take all that I can,
Right.
him or her.
Right.
Or you marry someone
Right.
with the wrong motives to take advantage of them.
Right.
So is the goal and purpose to get married wrong?
Right.
No.
Right.
But if you go in there with the wrong motives to take advantage of someone,
Right.
then that's not in God's purpose.
It's like building a house in the sand compared to building a house in the rock, right?
Yes.
So one of the things I always
that's
say,
a perfect example.
yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things I always say about purpose is this: is I always go back to Pastor, what's his name? One of my favorite pastors who passed away.
Recently?
No, he passed. He was from the Bahamas.
Miles Monroe.
Miles Monroe.
Yes.
Miles Monroe. And that changed my perspective about purpose when he gave the purpose sermon. And I think that's one of his most popular sermons ever. He said, where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. And he broke it down. He's like,
You said when purpose
is unknown, abuse is inevitable. So
okay.
if you don't know the purpose of something, you're going to abuse it. Which it doesn't mean that it's harming it. It's just that abuse, the word abuse means abnormal use. That's the Latin word that was put together. You're just going to use it
abnormal use. Yes. Oh, okay.
So
that
if you
makes
don't know
sense.
the purpose of something or what something was built for, what it was used for, even in your life, you're going to use it abnormally. And that's what happens to a lot of people, right? Because, and he said, and then he broke it down in 3 things. He's like, if you want to know the purpose of something, you got to ask the maker of the thing, right? So the maker of the thing, if you believe that God created everything, you have to go to God to figure out your purpose.
Right.
Right. Because if you don't do that, you're gonna be guided on as Napoleon Hill said, you're gonna be a drifter, right? You're always gonna be seeking the next fix or the next thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So and then
no one wants to be with a drifter.
Right.
Right.
And then the last thing he said is that, and this was more kind of like for the Bible. He said everything has an owner's manual. Right, and everything has an owner's manual, and that's kind of like the foundation. You have to have some kind of guidance, which is the Bible is basically our owner's manual. as human beings, right? Of how to live our life to the highest ability that God's created us, right? Because in the Bible it has so many examples of people with different personalities and different circumstances and different situations that it actually kind of mimics everybody in certain situations today, right? So you can look at how God used the purpose that some people were used for in the Bible, right? So I mean, one of the things is that once you figure out once you understand what purpose is, you start to understand one thing is that God's will for you is, I believe, is to become because as I said, if you look at everything that God created, the only difference that separates us as humans from every other species is self-awareness.
Right.
Right. That's the only thing.
Right.
But we kind of tend to use that self-awareness to create narratives, which we tend to follow, right?
Right.
And because we create this self-awareness, that we create narratives and that we tend to follow, we kind of go off track of what God wants us to be, is what is the best version of ourselves. Because every species that He's created becomes the best version of themselves automatically.
And
right?
So yes, that's what I believe.
Right.
Is our purpose is to become the best version of ourselves.
Right.
And Jesus even Himself said, "I came that you may have life,
and have it more abundantly."
Yes.
Right.
And when you deviate from the purpose God gave you,
right,
with the wrong motives,
right,
that's not abundance.
Exactly.
You're actually living in scarcity.
Right. True.
You're living in scarcity, and you have to live. There's some people out there that I see, and they just have unbelievable confidence that no matter what happens, it's all going to work out for them.
Right.
Like when it comes to a job or a business or whatever, it's like they aren't moving based on scarcity. They're moving abundantly.
Right.
Even though what they are looking for or what they're trying to go for is not there in front of them yet.
Right.
They're still moving that way. And that's something I've always admired in individuals who move that way, because they just have the overall belief it will work out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times family, parents, friends, whomever, they put their own ideology in our mind based upon how they perceive things.
Right.
And they input into us, which creates a scarcity mindset.
Right. And it's a narrative, right? So basically, that narrative is created where there's not enough for everybody. When God is ready, as I said, when God created, we don't see the trees saying, "Oh, there's not enough air for us," not oxygen.
Yeah.
We don't see the animals saying, "Oh, there's not enough," and they go find it, right? So that's where it comes down to this. So
they just living.
Yeah, they just live it, right? And they find it, right? Because it's created for them. There's a circle of life. We have created this ecosystem where we believe, because of narratives, that we think about it. God created trees, the trees created paper, and now paper is more valuable than trees. Think about it.
Right?
Yeah. So now it's kind of like, this is where I'm trying to say, it's like the narratives that are put out there for us to follow. Yes, this is the world we live in, and I get it. But at the same time, too, we got to understand that God is way more greater. He's given us more than enough.
Yes.
Right? And when we move like that in the mindset of abundance, you'll understand that there's more than enough for you. So
more than enough.
So one of the things is that the quote I want to put: you don't get out of life what you want. You get out of life who you are. Right. I mean, we all want certain things, but are we in that space to actually receive it? Right.
There you go. Yes. I was about to say something, but that's for another day, because that might offend some folks. Okay. Number 7 is spiritual delays are not denials. So this comes from the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verses 12 through 13 says, Since the first day that you set your mind, your words were heard, and I have come in response. But the prince of Persia resisted me. So what this means is, what's delayed is still on the way. So the question is, could it be that my answer is already on the way, but being spiritually delayed.
Right.
And I don't even want to use the word delay. I just say the most important thing is timing.
Right.
So, amen to that, Sister Patricia. I see that. Thank you. So timing is the most important thing. And I think a lot of times that people feel impatient because we have already put a definition of how long this time should be.
Right.
And whenever it doesn't work out within the time frame we think it wants, we just say, well, it was delayed.
Right.
When actually it's all about timing.
Right.
So you could be a great person, but if you get offered a job that offers a lot of responsibilities that you just don't have the knowledge and experience and the ability to handle at that time,
Right.
then you look like a person who doesn't know how to handle it.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you won't be that person.
Right.
It just means right now you just don't have the tools needed to be that person. So the best thing is to get the right job
Right.
at the right time.
Right.
Have the right relationships at the right time.
Right.
So it's not about your time frame.
Right.
It's about the right timing.
Yeah, and that's, one thing is never about your time frame. Just keep in mind, it's never the thing about it is this: is that a lot of people, we have the world has put a lot of narratives out there where we believe that your success comes within a certain time. So you go to college, you go to high school, you go to college, and you're supposed now to actually get the job and buy the home, right? I know this is what I always see with my clients too, because they always believe they get very. Right now, there's a generation that is very disoriented and very like they've kind of disassociated themselves with even ever buying a home, right? Because now you're finding that this scene it's almost out of reach because how their parents bought their homes is now how they're.
It's different now.
It's way different now. So they believe, okay, well, if my parents did it in this time frame, they got some. Because keep in mind, back in between 1940s, 1950s, a high school degree, you could actually purchase a home, right?
Right. You could go out there and get you a good paying job,
right? A nice paying job, and go to the bank with that nice paying job, and the bank give you a note, right? It's way different now, right? How we put the process. So one of the things I would say is like, God's time is not our time, right? And that's what we got to understand. I always say is this: whatever goal you set, all right, it doesn't matter what goal it is. Once you set a goal in your mind, just keep in mind the only way you can get there is by going through some obstacles, right? You're going to have to, because the obstacle of this, you set a goal to actually say you want to go after this career. You have to get out of bed. That's an obstacle.
Right.
Right. You have to actually get ready and get there on time. That's an obstacle. You have to fight all these things.
Right.
And I'm just talking about just the obstacles that we create ourselves. I'm not talking about the external ones now, right? Where you got to pass tests, you got to study, you got to do all these things, right? So, I mean, one thing I try to tell somebody who was always talking about, well, it takes so long to get here and, I want to get to this point in my life, but it's so much stuff I got to do. So I tell them it's like this. You're going to run into obstacles no matter what, right?
Right.
Whatever goal you set. Just keep in mind, obstacles are reminders that a goal has been set. That's all it is.
So we got a comment. It says, Daniel's prayer was definitely heard, but demonic activity slowed the delivery of the answer coming to him.
Right. So, I mean, and that's an obstacle, right?
Thank you for the insight.
Yes, and that's great, Ms. Thompson. Because, I mean, we have spiritual obstacles, we have physical obstacles, we have even mental obstacles.
So what someone is meant for evil will come out good for us.
Right.
Even if they,
But it's molding us, right? So it's going to create us. So a lot, we might not be ready for that blessing yet. And that's what God always understand. It might not be, we might not be in a place where we could receive it yet. Right, because some people you'll see some people with people win the lottery, right, and then you find they went broke. I'm like, how can you go broke after winning the lottery?
You won $20 million,
right?
Yeah,
you off of luck and you went broke. Now I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but at the same time,
it happens to. They say a good
good portion of
a lot of people win the lottery end up going broke.
All right, so I mean. most likely you got something that you wouldn't able to actually manage yet.
Yes,
Right.
that's it.
So
That's it. Can
and
you
that's what
manage
the
it?
obstacles does. It molds you. So when people say, "Hey," like right now, there's this whole argument. Oh, school's a waste of time, right? So it might be a waste of time for some, right? Because school is a path that creates obstacles for you to mold you into where you want to be, right? It does create, it does challenge you mentally,
Right,
right?
right.
Because some people are not blessed where they're exposed. Because I mean, they say emulating cuts out what 67% of
Our
your
learning curve,
success
right? Oh,
of
okay.
learning, right? So if you emulate somebody, so say you go to that's why internships are so important. So if you go to an internship, right, or if your father was the CEO of this hedge fund, right, you already know the language,
Right.
right? You already know a lot of how than somebody who's never been exposed to that, and they have to go to school for
Right.
it.
That's why exposure is so important.
Right. So that's why now the school is going to help you get exposed
Right.
to that. Your mind is not in that space.
Right.
Right.
They say put it out there, and the teacher will come.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right. Number 8. You must act on faith. Faith without works is what?
Is dead.
Faith without works is dead. That's the book of James, chapter 2, verse 17. And that's a scripture I heard a lot growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So pray like it depends is on God, but work like it depends is on you. And that's about the action piece.
Right.
So the question is what action can I take today that shows I believe God is already working? What action can I take today to shows that I believe God is already working? So,
Mm-hmm.
as we were hitting on earlier, is that I believe your prayer. I think a lot of times we think prayer is just us talking.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I think our prayer is just our action too.
Right. No.
It's moving in that direction.
Right.
It's and also think what creates faith on something that you haven't seen yet is like the work you put into it.
Right.
So let's say you try out for, I use sports a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you try out for a team
Mm-hmm.
and you've been practicing.
Right.
God, my goal is to make the baseball team.
Right.
And you've been practicing your swing, going to batting cages. You've been playing catch. Like you really have dedicated yourself to being good at this.
Right.
Well, when you go for the tryouts, are you moving in faith or disbelief?
Right.
Your
Right.
actions have already showed that this is going to happen,
Right.
but without putting that work into it,
Right.
you're saying that I don't believe this.
Pretty much. That's where that's because it's kind of like yeah, your spiritual belief, like your faith, moves your mouth, right?
Right.
So but as I said here, but the works will move the mountain, right?
Right.
So just keep in mind, I'll say you got to go back to the fundamentals. Nothing great on this earth has ever been created by anyone without putting some action between it. Sometimes it's very violent action,
Right.
Because if you look at even some of our greatest creations here on earth, right?
Right.
The pyramids, right?
They still trying to figure it
They're
out.
still trying to figure
yeah.
it out. But the labor and all that stuff that went into it, and the mindset
Right.
of like
The strong mindset
Right.
you have to have
you had to have
to
actually
move those
those big huge stones,
Yeah.
and then put them in place accurately.
where it's still there today.
Right. Yeah, and I always go back to that. 'Cause
Yeah.
and just keep in mind, and this is where I was going back. So I was having this discussion with this guy in the sauna, and I was like, just keep in mind, they built that.
You having a discussion with who, where?
This guy, well, in the sauna, in the gym, right? That's where everybody has these intellectual discussions, right? So this is what I told him. I'm like, just keep in mind, they built that without the use of the English language,
Mm-hmm.
right? They use a language we don't even use
Use today,
right? So it's kind of like, and it's still existing today.
Today.
To this day. So
Yeah.
what I always say is this is that faith is, we must act on faith. Hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard.
Mm.
Right?
Say it again.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
There you go.
So if it's kind of like this, if you really want something and you really put your mind to it, the first thing I would say everybody should do, because a lot of people, like, if you want to become a professional basketball player, the blueprint has already been written. There's great basketball players out there. Like, and just keep in mind, you've all seen one generation take it over another generation.
Right.
So you find that with Hakeem Olajuwon, then there was Michael Jordan,
right?
Then there was actually Kobe Bryant, then there's LeBron James, and now you're looking at the guy from the Celtics. What's his name? Tatum, Booker, all these right. people, high scorers. So you find one and what they're doing is they're looking at the blueprint that the first person that's created.
Right.
So you gotta be honest with yourself, right?
Right.
And this is where I said, if you want to be a pro in something, and you tell yourself, "Hey, I'm dreaming," because you always hear, "Everybody, I want to do this in life," especially with little kids. Is what you need to understand is now you gotta start looking at the people who have done it and what they did.
Right. And speaking of that, Jordan's the greatest of all time. All right.
Let's not go there now. Let's not go there.
Right. Yes, live by faith and not by your five senses. Amen. There
right.
you go. All right. Number 9, and we got less than 5 minutes. Number 9 is God delights in fulfilling his promises. So delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart.
Right.
That's Psalms 37, verse 4.
Right.
So when you delight, God delivers.
Right.
So is God the center of my desire or just the source of what I want?
Right.
All right. Number 10
right.
is the word of God is the blueprint. So shall my word be. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please.
Right.
Let me say that again, because we were talking about that power of the tongue earlier.
Right.
So shall my word be. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please. That's Isaiah 55:11.
Right.
So declare the word, watch it work.
Right.
So question is, am I consistently declaring God's word or my worries?
Right.
Am I consistently declaring God's word or my worries?
Right.
And I've heard this a lot too. If you're going to worry, if you're going to pray, don't worry. And if you're going to worry, why pray?
Right. True. Very true. That's very true. And I'll go back to 9 just to fulfill God's delight.
Yes.
When you delight, God delivers. One person put it to me is this: is like you can't fake happiness, but you can fake. You can fake happiness, but you can't fake discipline, right? And that's the thing that I think separates a lot of the people who accomplish their goals from people who don't, right? Is that emotions really can't get you there. You have to put in the work to get it done.
Right.
Now the other thing is number 10. What God's basically saying is, and how I'm interpreting, I can't say what God's saying, but what I'm interpreting from this, declare the word and watch it work, is there's a saying that repetition deepens the impression. So if you hit one thing constant, right, it's kind of like somebody said you die from 1,000 cuts, right?
Right.
So it's
a
like
death by 1,000 cuts.
Death by 1,000 cuts. So it's kind of like if you hit something consistently, even if you hit it in one place,
right.
sooner or later it'll make the biggest impression.
So that's our show for today. But I do want to bring this up because we have less than a minute. You just mentioned K-Rab.
Yes. We have now a conference. Yes, I'll be. I'm K-Rab, California Association of Real Estate Brokers, president-elect for 2025. I'll be installed as president for 2026, 2027, and we have now a conference at on the 23rd through the 26th. Yes, we're going to have. It's actually going to be in Sacramento. If you go to the K-Rab website, you can register, book your hotel, and also buy the tickets. One of the things I want to invite everybody out from San Diego, because I'm representing San Diego hard. Definitely, it's going to be the whole state. We have 11 chapters in California, so the whole state is going to be represented. But the main thing is, one of the classes that I want to point out is that we're going to be teaching people how to create their own down payment assistance program, right? Because we have a success of someone actually in K-Rab who's actually doing it. So I want to invite everybody out. Go to krab.org, and you'll see all the information there.
And that's CAREB.org.
Yeah.
All right. We thank you guys for your time. We'll see you same time, same place in a couple weeks. Until then, peace.
Peace.
We out.